first time I experienced something greater than me, not something physically bigger necessarily, but something greater than my individual self, occurred through my childhood encounters with the natural world. On the West Coast, where I grew up, I stood beneath a towering sequoia tree over 1,000 years older than me, its limbs stretching out beyond my sight into the canopy of the forest far above me. Or I navigated a rocky shoreline, exploring alien worlds of tide pools with urchins, crabs, anemones, and seaweed, while waves crashed around me. And I wish deeply for these same experiences for all of our children. Experiences that proclaim we are participating in a grand living process called the universe, of which we are but a small part for only a small moment of time. Yet, I fear these experiences have fundamentally and rapidly changed. Collectively, as humans, we've committed violence against this planet on a grand scale. We're witnessing the beginnings of what they call the sixth mass extinction of this planet's history, and we can directly trace the cause to human activities. And in that, facing that, I ask myself, what am I? What can I do with myself? What can I do with my hands to be able to change this? Am I enough? Do I have enough? After all, that's what I've been taught and what I've actually taught others throughout much of my life, which is the power to heal or destroy this planet is in our individual hands. I can choose to recycle, to consume products that are healthier for the environment, to purchase an electric vehicle, to install solar panels on my home and my congregation, to restrict my air travel or to eat organic foods produced near my home. Right? We feel like we're participating in that, and it's our individual experience and our individual commitment. But then we experience things like the orange skies of last June, when the smoke and ash from massive wildfires in Canada traveled south, turning our own communities into an eerie, alien landscape, causing real health concerns and reminding us just how big a problem we've created on our small and fragile planet. We watch the news witnessing the devastation of communities by massive hurricanes, even this week. And those hurricanes are getting larger, more powerful, and more frequent. We hear voices of indigenous peoples who continue to fight to steward their sacred lands, even when they have been devastated or taken away. The problem we've created is much, much bigger than we have imagined. Climate change is happening faster than we expected. Because even if we stop all climate changing activities today, activities which have accelerated rapidly since World War II, in just a single lifetime, we have already set into motion changes which will be experienced for decades to come. We have already fundamentally altered the way present and future generations experience the living world. And what can I do about it? What can I do with these hands in helping solve such a colossal problem that we have in climate change? And how much control do I really have? An answer lies in going beyond our individual choices, especially our individual consumer choices, and considering the interdependence of all beings, including other humans that call this planet home. The danger of focusing on the individual rather than collective action is that it isolates and ignores the historical forces which brought us to this present moment. It dismisses the unequal effect climate change has had on communities around the globe, too often on poor, indigenous, and black and brown communities. Some believe, for example, especially in the most industrialized nation, that each nation is solely responsible for their own environmental impact and climate challenges. The Prime Minister of the island country of Barbados, Mia Mottley, serves as an example of just one leader who pushes back vehemently against this isolationist approach. She speaks directly about the impact climate change has had on her nation, and she insists that more privileged nations must accept their role in our present situation by working to address the challenges faced by those most affected by climate change. When our blood, sweat, and tears finances the Industrial Revolution, she said in an interview last year, and the Industrial Revolution then causes the climate crisis, and then I have to pay the consequences of the climate crisis because of the Industrial Revolution financed by our blood, sweat, and tears, then I think the industrialized nations have no moral authority to tell me anything about the climate or why we don't have enough. What is my responsibility given all this? Each of us are a very small part of a massive global system, bigger and stronger than the oceans that crashed around me on those rocky shores of my childhood. Yet each of us has the ability to act beyond our individual selves and our individual nations to counteract that massive system. Instead of asking, what can I do? We must be asking, what can we do? We can speak out for climate justice. We can listen to those leading communities on the front lines of change. We can vote for leaders who believe in working collectively towards a future together. We can reach towards each other. We can hold each other, both in care and accountability. And we can remember our sacred connection to this earth and our deep, deep interconnection. In the words of indigenous poet Joy Harjo, remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember, you are all people, and all people are you. Remember, you are the universe, and the universe is you. So many choices, so much potential in our collective hands. Yet the question remains, what will we do? The future generations of this planet await our answer.
I suspect that today, in many ways, Reverend Andrée and I are preaching to the choir, as are our colleagues across the UU universe. I doubt that we have to convince any of you that climate change is real. I doubt even that we have to convince you that climate change disproportionately impacts communities of color, communities of less wealth. I doubt that we have to convince you that developed Western nations like ours bear much of the responsibility for the position in which we find ourselves. I think you know this. I think the problem isn't knowledge, it's hope and it's will. My oldest child, who gave permission for me to share, my oldest child from early childhood has been passionate about the environment and the animals that we share this earth with. Now a vegan, when I asked this child of mine what to say today, the answer was, tell them that humans made the problem, but that also means that we can be part of the solution. Tell them there's hope for something better than this. When this child was small, I faced so many questions about how humans could be so awful. So many comments about how we didn't deserve the world that we share. This was not a child filled with hope. This was a child filled with climate change grief and some degree of dread at being human. And I did a lot of responding, sharing that yes, we humans don't always make good choices, but that we can change, that we're powerful and that carries responsibility, that we have a duty to be thoughtful and reflective in our choices, not only so that we don't cause harm, but also so that we create healing. I had to find ways to teach this child a love for humanity, for this child's own humanness, if we're honest. And I had to try to find a way to teach hope for the future that all of our children will inherit. The reality is that climate change can feel so big, so overwhelming, so complete. I do not need to repeat statistics on how much time is left and what is irreversible. You have heard it. But it can also feel so abstract when it doesn't feel like it's happening to us, but far away in another community or another place down in the ironbound, but not up here. It can be easy to put our head in the sand because climate change reality and grief can be absolutely stifling and can feel so impossible that the only answer we can come up with is like, sure, that's terrible, but like, it's happening out there and it doesn't matter what I do, it won't change. My recycling doesn't matter, my riding my bike doesn't matter, nothing makes a difference, it feels too big. But the minute we say to ourselves that it isn't our problem to solve because it isn't yet in our backyard, is the minute that we cede any moral authority and we are denying our interdependence. And the minute that we deny our power and responsibility as individuals is the minute that we throw away any chance to collectively make change. We owe to each other and every other creature on this planet, we owe to the planet itself our care, our attention, and a true commitment to interdependence. And we owe it to ourselves to never underestimate our power. All of those individual choices are the foundation for the collective ones. Real large-scale change is made possible by individual change. Change in action, but also change in heart. We've done it before. As a child, the specter of the hole in the ozone, anyone remember that we had a huge hole in the ozone and we were all freaking out about it? And you know what? We made a bunch of changes and that hole's closing, right? We can make big change, and it begins with a change in us. When we shift our relationship to this earth by reducing our waste or choosing the least polluting means of travel or planting some more trees or going vegan or composting, whatever it is, when we shift our relationship to the earth, it changes us. Our appreciation grows. And as our gratitude and appreciation for the earth, the water, the fire, and the air grow, our commitment grows. And as our commitment to individual change grows, so does our conviction that the world can be different. We can make big change when we recommit ourselves to active hope. If we believe that the world can be different, if we believe that things can be better than they are, then we find ourselves sustained in our changes and encouraged to broader ones. Like voting with climate change at the forefront of our concerns, like spending our money in environmentally responsible ways, like investing our resources with environmental ethics in mind. My guess is that most of us recycle, many probably compost, most of us probably avoid single-use plastics, but how many of us are working actively to reduce our food waste? How many of us are volunteering with groups that are focused on saving the environment and the diversity of species? And how many of us privileged to have investments know if those investments are funding environmentally sound businesses and practices or not? And how many of us are willing to talk to our family members, encouraging them toward change? We can expand what we do as individuals in order to participate in collective change making, because we can make big change when we decide that change is necessary, when we decide that change is what we want, when we decide that change is possible. And this morning, we're recommitting ourselves together to the idea that change is necessary. Change is what we want. Change is possible. Let's prepare ourselves together for change.